ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं दन्त्वातीतं गगनसदृशम् तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलम् अचलम् सर्वदा साक्षिभूतम् भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। चरणम्.
Sai Ram, brothers and sisters, as we celebrate Guru Poornima 2021. I've been asked to give a little talk on Swami, our eternal master. I'd like to give a little bit of background. My wife became a devotee in 1987 when we were in Auckland, New Zealand, but didn't make her first visit to Swami until May 1993, where she went to Kodaikanal to see him and had a marvellous 3 weeks. She came back bubbling over with joy and happiness, and I thought, well, I better make an effort to get over to see this person. So in October 93, we both went together, and they were celebrating Dasara in Prashanti, which was a marvellous time. It's the first time I'd spent at any Indian Hindu festival, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not much reaction with Swami, except on the last day where he looked at me and gave me a beautiful smile, and that changed my outlook on him. In 1999, I was made National President of New Zealand, and in 2000 I was given a veranda seat. I was sitting in after darshan, in the afternoon, and I got a tap on the shoulder, and the registrar of the university's assistant spoke to me and said, "Douglas, you've been given a veranda seat, so you come through the small gate over there at 6 in the morning and see Mr. Saha, who looks after the gentleman's side of the veranda." I said, "Oh dear." That evening, I was in the Western Canteen, and an Australian gentleman that I knew, Australia, came up to me and said, "What was that all about? I saw the registrar's assistant talking to you." And I said, "Yes, they've given me a veranda seat." And he said, "Oh, Swami doesn't know who gets on the veranda half the time, and you'll probably get booted off. It's all I think it's a mistake, Doug." And I went back to our room. My wife gave me a quick kick and said, "Behave yourself. This is Swami's wish." Anyway, the next morning, went in through the small gate at 6. Mr. Saha was waiting for me. He said, "I know who you are. Come here," and took me up on the veranda and said, "This is your seat," which was at the top of the stairs on the veranda. He said, "You don't move down the stairs. The students will be there." "Yes, sir." Darshan music started. I got a little pad out and a pen, and I thought I'd better write a note just in case. Swami gave a beautiful slow darshan, like it used to be when he was walking. Came up through the men, up past the students at the front, talking to them, taking their letters, and stopped just down from where I was sitting. Got the boys to move and came up 2 stairs, put his hand out and took my letter. And he said, "And where are you from?" "New Zealand, Swami." And he said, "Very happy," and walked off, then turned around and came back. And he said, "And how is New Zealand?" And I said, "Very good, Swami." And he said, "No, it's not good, it's not bad, it is." And I sat and thought about that for a while, and then I realized that it's us that makes things good or bad. It's how we perceive things. Whether we see them good, they'll be good. If we see it as bad, it'll be bad. The object or whatever itself is just there. Anyway, 2001, I was sitting on the veranda in my normal outside place, and then Swami took a group in for an interview in the morning, and most people on the veranda get up and leave and go for breakfast. I moved inside with a group of others, and there was 10 of us sitting in 2 rows of 5 just inside the veranda, where the car started to be parked later in life when Swami was not walking. Swami booted these people out of the interview room early. They were only there 15 minutes, and he came out and he started talking to those in the front of our group and walked all the way down on the outside till he was talking to everybody, till he was level where I was sitting. I was on the inside, and beside Swami on my right was a doctor from California of Indian background. Swami looked at me, said, "You have a heart problem." "Yes, Swami," I said, because I was so happy he was talking to me. He looks at me again, points to his chest and says, "You have a heart problem. Your heart is not pumping properly," very slowly and very clearly. "Yes, Swami." Swami looks up, then looks down, and as if to say, "Oh, who's this idiot?" speaks to the doctor beside me and said, "This man has a heart problem. His heart is not pumping properly." The doctor looks up and goes, "Oh." I look up and go, "Yes, Swami." Swami looks, his eyes were twinkling like anything, those beautiful dark eyes. And he looked at me as though I was nuts. And he starts to walk away. Then he turned around and came back and said, "Go inside." So I shot inside the interview room. There was a young student there with his father and myself. Then Swami comes in, sends the student and his father into the little room, then starts talking to me. Now I'm on my knees, I'm in the namaste position. He grabs my hands with both his hands and he squeezes them so tight. And he said, "Do you have any pain?" And I said, "No, Swami, thanks to you." And I don't know why I said that, because as far as I was concerned, there was nothing wrong with me. Swami then said, "Stand up, boy." So I stood up. He put one hand on my shoulder and then he rubbed my stomach and chest 3 times with his other hand and said, "No more problems. Sit down, boy." So I sat down. He then went and spent time with the student and his father. Comes out after a while, tells us to leave, tells me to turn the fan off on the way out. Then I said to him, "Swami, my wife loves you very much." He says, "I know." So he goes and gets 3 packets of vibhuti and puts in my pocket and said, "Give to wife," which was lovely. Got outside, and after bhajans were finished and Swami had left, Sara Pavan comes up to me and said, "What was that all about, Doug?" And I said, "Oh, Swami said I have a heart problem." He said, "Oh, he wants you to be checked at the super specialty hospital." And I said, "I can wait until I get back to New Zealand. I don't want to take anyone's spot." He said, No, off we go." So we get in his car and we drive off to the super specialty, walk in there through 50 odd people waiting to see a doctor, and straight in to see a surgeon or a specialist, a heart specialist in his office. And he says, "This Swami's told Doug here he has a heart problem, he better get some checkups." The doctor says, "Okay, go upstairs, get an echo, and then come back tomorrow and get a blood test and get on the treadmill, and I'll give you results tomorrow afternoon." Well, we did this, went back next morning with Sarah after bhajans, after darshans, and had the blood test and the treadmill. Then was sitting on the veranda that afternoon, and the heart specialist came in for darshan, dropped a big brown envelope on my lap, and he said, "There's nothing wrong with you, Mr. Douglas. You can run up and down Mount Everest 100 times. And I thought, oh, what's going on here? Anyway, 9 years later, remember this time, 9 years later in 2010, I was standing down as national chairman. I'd been there a while. I was handing over to another person. Dr. Pal Dal was the zonal chairman at the time, and he approved this other person taking over. I went and saw my GP for the final time as we were leaving to come to Australia in about 3 weeks. And she put a stethoscope on my chest and on my back, excuse me, and said, "Oh, I've got a problem here. You've got a heart murmur." And I thought, I've heard this before. And sent me off to see a specialist at Auckland Public Hospital, which I did a week later. They did an echo and some other tests, and then this specialist took me into his office and he said, "You've got severe aortic stenosis. Your heart valve has shrunk down from 22 millimeters down to 7. You're going to need a replacement valve in about 6 to 8 months. I said, "We're off to Australia in 2 weeks. He said, "Don't worry, I'll write you a letter and you make an appointment to see a GP once you're settled and he'll arrange it." So we duly did all this, got to Australia, settled down, saw a new GP. He contacted the hearts department or cardiac department at Prince Charles Hospital in Brisbane, and off I went a couple of weeks later for my first appointment. Well, a few months later, June 2011, I ended up on the operating table there, and I had open heart surgery, and where a replacement aortic valve was put into my heart, and it's still working today, pumping away beautifully, touch wood. But that made me realize, suddenly I realized, Swami held this back, knowing I still had some important work to do with the Sai organisation in New Zealand. 9 years. He saw it in 2001. He stopped it from getting any worse, and then it was up to me to get it fixed through the normal channels in 2011. So 9 years later, diagnosed with it back in Auckland. So it just proved to me no more doubts about him. Nothing. He knows our past, he knows our present, and he knows our futures, and we should never forget that. And he loves us very, very much, and all we should do is love him back. Jai Sai Ram.
Pureeshwara Pankajnetra Bhakta Samrakshak Sai Namo Chitravati Nadi Tira Nivasi Chinni Krishna Sathya Sai Namo Atri Sutam Mahadeva Prasannuta Apan Nivarana Sai Shivom Jaya Jaya He Sathya Sai Maheshwara Dehiratim पादयुगे श्रीगणनाथ पिता जगदीश्वर काशी विश्वेश्वर साई शिवों श्रीगुणनायक मंगलदायक मोक्षप्रदायक साई नमो भवगुण निग्रह पावन कल्पित वर्ति महेश्वर साई नमो जय जय हे सत्य साई रतिं तव पादयुगे वेदोद्धारणनादस्वरूप श्रीनारायण सम्भव साई नमो राक्षसनिग्रह नरहरि सम्भव रामावतार श्री साई नमो अञ्जनिपुत्रानुग्रह शोभित आनन्द राम श्री साई नमो जय जय महेश्वर देहिरतिं तव पादयुगे शोभित श्री मथुरापुरीनायक शोक संहार श्री साई नमो त्रिपुरासुर निमर्दन मंगलनायकी नायक साई नमो सामगान प्रिय नटन मनोहर शंकर रूप श्री साई शिवों जय जय हे सत्य साई महेश्वर देहिरतिं तव पादयुगे शूलाधारण सुंदर रूपा त्रिभुवन पाल श्री साई नमो हलाहल विषपन्नग वल्लभ आनंद तांडव साई नमो भरद्वाज गोत्र पार्वती रमणा भक्तानुकूल श्री साई नमो जय जय हे सत्य साई महेश्वर देहिरतिं तव पादयुगे सीता मोहन दशरथ नंदन अयोध्यवासी साई नमो राधा प्रिय हरि माधव गोपाल नंद कुमार श्री साई नमो सूरदास प्रिय भक्त मनोहर अर्जुन मित्र श्री साई नमो जय जय हे सत्य साई महेश्वर देहिरतिं तव पादयुगे मीरा हृदय संचारी गोपाल जनपालक सत्यस्वरूप श्री साई नमो भवभय सङ्कट पाप विमोचन दीन संरक्षक साई नमो शिरडिपुरीश्वर पर्ति महेश्वर प्रेमावतार श्री साई नमो जय जय हे सत्य साई महेश्वर देहि रतिं तव पादयुगे जय जय हे सत्य साई महेश्वर देहि रतिं तव पादयुगे जय जय हे सत्य साई महेश्वर देहि रतिं तव पादयुगे।
प्रथम वन्दना गौरी नन्दना प्रथम वन्दना गौरी नन्दना शिवनन्दन पाहि गजानन
Sai Jai Jai. Shri Baba Sathya Baba Prema Baba Jai Jai. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Manasa bhajare Guru charanam, Guru charanam, Dusara bhava sagar dharanam, Dusara bhava sagar dharanam. Guru Maharaj, Guru Jai Jai. Guru Maharaj, Guru Jai Jai. Sai Nata Sat Guru Jai Jai. Sai Nata Sat Guru Jai Jai. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namah. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namah. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Aruna Shiva. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Aruna Shiva. Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Om Namo Baba. Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Om Namo Baba. Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Om Namo Baba. Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Om Namo Baba. Sabajare Guru Charanam, Sabajare Guru Charanam, Dusara Bhava Sagar Dharanam, Dusara Bhava Sagar Dharanam. Guru Maharaj, Guru Jai Jai. Guru Maharaj, Guru Jai Jai. Sai Nata Sat Guru Jai Jai. Sai Nata Sat Guru Jai Jai. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namo. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Aruna Shiva. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Aruna Shiva. Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Om Namo Baba. Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Om Namo Baba. Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Om Namo Baba. Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Omkaram Baba, Om Namo Baba. Manasa bhajare Guru charanam, Dustara bhava sagar dharanam.
साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवन्दना सत्य साई साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवन्दना सत्य साई साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवन्दना सत्य साई साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरु पररंजन गुरु परमेशा गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा गुरु पदरंजन गुरु परमेशा गुरु पररंजन गुरु परमेशा गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा सद्गुरु साई पार्थिपुरीशा सद्गुरु साई पार्थिपुरीशा सद्गुरु साई पार्थिपुरीशा सद्गुरु साई पार्थिपुरीशा चरण नमोस्तुते साई महेशा शरण नमोस्तुते साई महेशा शरण नमोस्तुते साई महेशा शरण नमोस्तुते साई महेशा साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवंदना सत्य साई साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई गुरुवंदना सत्य साई गुरु पदरंजन गुरु परमेशा गुरु पररंजन गुरु परमेशा गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु महेशा सद्गुरु साई पार्थिपुरीशा सद्गुरु साई पार्थिपुरीशा शरण नमोस्तुते साई महेशा शरण नमोस्तुते साई महेशा शरण नमोस्तुते साई महेशा शरण नमोस्तुते साई महेशा साक्षात् परब्रह्म साई
दत्ता गुरु दत्तात्रेय गुरु
दत्ता गुरु दत्तात्रेय गुरु
दत्ता गुरु दत्तात्रेय गुरु
दत्तात्रेय गुरु
साईनाथ दीनानाथ ब्रह्म रूप 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 गुरु
दत्ता गुरु दत्तात्रेय गुरु
दत्तात्रेय गुरु
अलख निरंजन भव भय भंजन दत्तात्रेय गुरु
अलख निरंजन भव भय भंजन दत्तात्रेय गुरु
अलख निरंजन भव भय भंजन दत्तात्रेय गुरु
निरंजन भव भय भंजन दत्तात्रेय गुरु
दत्तात्रेय गुरु
दत्तात्रेय गुरु
साईनाथ गुरु
साईनाथ गुरु
दत्त गुरु दत्तात्रेय गुरु साईनाथ दीनानाथ ब्रह्म रूप गुरु दत्ता गुरु दत्तात्रेय गुरु अलख निरंजन भव भय भंजन दत्तात्रेय गुरु दत्तात्रेय गुरु साईनाथ गुरु दत्ता गुरु दत्तात्रेय गुरु
वाहेगुरु 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 जी वाहेगुरु 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 जी सत्यनाम 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 बोलो सत्यनाम 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 नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम की बोलो नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम की बोलो सत्यनाम 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 की बोलो राम 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 की बोलो बोलो राम 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 जी बोलो मुझको मुझको जपिए राम नाम जी बोलो कृष्ण 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 जी बोलो बोलो कृष्ण 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 जी बोलो मुझको मुझको जपिए कृष्ण नाम जी बोलो शिव 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 नाम जी बोलो बोलो शिव 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 नाम जी बोलो मुझको मुझको जपिए सत्य नाम जी बोलो बोलो हर 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 जी बोलो बोलो हरि 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 जी बोलो सत्यनाम 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 जी दत्त 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 दत्तात्रेय जी बोलो दत्त 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 जी बोलो
ॐ तत्सत् श्रीनारायण तु पुरुषोत्तम गुरु तु सिद्धबुद्ध तु स्कन्द विनायक सविता पावक तु सविता पावक तु ब्रह्ममस्तु यवशक्ति तु येषु पिता प्रभु तु रुद्र विष्णु तु राम कृष्ण तु रहीमताओ तु रहीमताओ तु वासुदेव गोविंद स्वरूप तु चिदानंद हरि तु अद्वितीय तु अकाल निर्भय आत्मलिंग शिव तु आत्मलिंग शिव तु आत्मलिंग शिव तु. Christian prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Muslim prayer. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, praise be to God, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. Most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. You do we worship, and your aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and who go not astray. Buddhist refuges. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Hindu prayer. The universal teacher is the creator. The universal teacher is the protector and sustainer. The universal teacher is the Almighty. The universal teacher is verily the supreme unmanifested one. To that Guru we offer our prostrations. Zoroastrian prayer. Just as the will of the ruler of the universe is supreme, so is the spiritual teacher supreme through his asha. The gifts of good mind are for those who do good deeds in the name of Mazda. The strength and power of Ahura are given to him who renders help and shelters the poor and needy. Jewish prayer. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your resources. Let these matters which I command you today be upon your heart. Teach them thoroughly to your children, and speak of them while you sit in your home, while you walk on the way, when you retire, and when you arise. Amen.
కనుకనే మొట్టమొదట మనము
First of all,
మనను మనము తెలుసుకోవడానికి ప్రయత్నించాలి.
we should make every effort to know ourselves.
ఎక్కడ చూసినా హూ ఆర్ యూ హూ ఆర్ యూ హూ ఆర్ యూ అని ప్రశ్న వేసేటప్పటికి చాలా కాలం వ్యర్థమైపోతుంది.
We'll be wasting time by responding to the questions such as who are you?
మొట్టమొదటి క్వశ్చన్ హూ యామ్ ఐ.
First put a question to ourselves. Who am
నిన్ను
I?
నీవు చూసుకోవడానికి ప్రయత్నం చేయాలి.
First know yourself.
ఎట్లా నిన్ను చూసుకోవడానికి ప్రయత్నం చేయాలి.
How do you know that?
ఈ జగత్తులో అందరిలో మహా అశాంతితో చాలా బాధపడుతున్నారు.
There's a lot of agitation all over the world.
ఈ వాతావరణం మానవుని చాలా బాధింపు చేస్తుంటారు.
The entire environment is suffering us.
హిల్ స్టేషన్ పోయినట్టు వారు ఏం చేస్తారు?
What do people that go to hill station?
లోపల బనీని వేసుకుంటారు.
They'll have banyan
మరి
inside.
పైన షర్ట్ వేసుకుంటారు.
Then they'll put on
దానిపై కోట్ వేసుకుంటారు, ఉల్లన్ కోట్.
over that they will wear the woolen coat.
దేనికోసం?
Why?
ఆ చల్లదనాన్ని భరించే కోసం వేసుకుంటారు.
Because of the cold climate they wear all these things.
అయితే
However,
తిరిగి మనం మన స్వస్థానానికి వచ్చినప్పుడు మనం ఏం చేస్తాం?
when we return to a native place, what do we do?
మొట్టమొదట పైన ఉన్నటువంటి కోటును మనం తీసివేస్తాం.
First we remove the outer coat.
తర్వాత షర్ట్ రిమూవ్ చేస్తాము.
Then we remove the shirt.
తర్వాత బనీన్ కూడా రిమూవ్ చేస్తాం.
Then we'll remove the banyan also.
అప్పుడు తన చెస్ట్ తాను చక్కగా చూసుకోగలరు.
Then you can see your own chest clearly.
కనుక పైన ఉన్నటువంటి కోటే తమో గుణము,
The outer coat is the bestial temperament.
లోపల ఉన్నటువంటి షర్టే సాత్వికము,
The shirt is emotional aspect.
బనీని రాజసికము. ఈ మూడింటిని తీసివేసినప్పుడే ఆత్మతత్వం నీకు అర్థమవుతుంది.
The banyan is the pious aspect, sattvic. When once you remove these three, you can see your own chest.
ఉన్నంత వరకు కూడాను మనకు ఆత్మజ్ఞానం అనేటువంటి లభ్యం కానే కాదు.
So long these three attributes are there, you cannot have the wisdom of the Spirit.
तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्।
ओम जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वरा ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपद्बान्धवा ओम जय जगदीश हरे माता पिता गुरुदेवं मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथा नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथा नागेन्द्र शयन ओम जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी ओ साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अंदुकु मंगल आरती अंदुकु मंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा ओम शांति 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 समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ओम शांति 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 peace 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 on earth peace 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 for all the universe for all the universe for all the universe जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा